Hey guys, Legendary Grimlock here, your favorite Dinobot, and today we're going to be discussing whether or not Van Helsing can survive Dead Island. We'll be using the first Dead Island game, going from the Rider White campaign all the way to the Dead Island game with all four characters like Sam B, Zayan, Peruna, and Jake. So obviously, the main game. So we're gonna be looking at the same things I've been looking at for all these other survival videos: food, water, shelter, and then survivability, obviously. And at the end, we'll be giving a percentage at the end for if Van Helsing from the 2005 Van Helsing movie can survive. So let's begin. So we'll be dropping Van Helsing in the same situation Ryder White has, and then this will transfer over to the main game. So basically, Van Helsing doesn't have to do any of the campaign stuff or any of the missions or anything. He has to survive this entire island. He will have full access to his werewolf form as well. So yeah, he has full access to it only at night, and he has full control over it, meaning he's able to use at least a decent amount of human intelligence so that he doesn't go berserk and starts going on killing frenzies. Because if he didn't have full control over his werewolf form, he would actually be a lot, but he would basically turn into another saber wolf, which is why I did not choose saber wolf for this entire thing, because he would have just straight up annihilated. Yeah, he would have straight up annihilated this entire game. So let's begin here. So for starters, he would be dropped off, and then we would have to discuss the first thing. So we always have an original food, water, shelter. So easily, I think the first thing he would have to do is he would try to find a good place to stay. Now, being spawned in the Rider White campaign, which is basically the beginning of the actual game in chronological order, this means he spawns in a freshly infected city. This means that he gets the infected, the walkers, and only I would say a handful of suiciders. The infection was much stronger in the city before it even got to the beach area, because the city was basically the main area that had the infection. It was the jungle, then it went into the city, right? And then it went into sorry about that. And then it went to the beach. So the infection spreaded pretty much in that order. And basically we're playing the game backwards in the beginning here. So Van Helsing will actually be spawned here at nighttime. This means that he has full access to his werewolf form and might even start off in his werewolf form to even give him a chance at escaping this. I could definitely see him tearing through hordes of infected, hordes of just these runner zombies just coming at him. I could definitely see it. It'd be a bloody mess here. But if I had to pick a good location for him, and he's just running around, running through it, I do believe he would make his way to the Diamond Bungalow District. And here's why. One, there's fewer infected. He could easily kill a thug in his werewolf form, and even in his human form, I do think he would have had access to at least some decent amount of weapons at this time, maybe making some of his own, or maybe making his original ones from the Van Helsing movie, considering the fact that he does have that creativity. He does have that creativity and that ingenuity to actually be able to make weapons. In all honesty, this covers water as well, because Van Helsing should be able to get a decent amount of water, or if not, could easily get beverages from any of the houses there. There was vodka, there was water, water. He would easily be able to get a decent amount of water there as well. Well, let's talk about food here. Now, there is at least 3 weeks worth of food. This is going by what John Cinemoy said, that these gas stations at least are able to give the survivors, or at least pretty much a whole safe house from the lifeguard tower, which was pretty decent, about the size of, I would have to say 2, maybe 4 houses put together. The size of I think about the size of I would have to say about the size of a small, probably a Dollar Tree. I think the lifeguard tower would be pretty much just about the same size as a Dollar Tree almost. And then there's a lighthouse where that's pretty big. So this food only lasted him for 3 weeks, but I do believe if Van Helsing wants to do it, it would be enough for him. Van Helsing's by himself and not pretty much taking care of anybody else in this kind of situation. So that food would last him for 3 weeks, if not probably longer. But considering the fact that a human, even by himself, having food for this certain amount of 3 weeks, plus counting Van Helsing's werewolf diet as well, because werewolves can be actually quite ravenous when they transform as well. This would actually demote his diet probably much lesser than that. So this means he would probably have to make his way to I would have to say the city market, right? And then he would make his way to the supermarket, which will make it I definitely think it would make it a lot easier. I do think he may even get whereabouts about the Rascal Gang through like radios and stuff, and would probably wait till nighttime. Now, I do think that would make it a bloodbath for the Rascal Gang, but again, we cannot just let that slide. Just the sheer fact that they even kill innocent people in the first place, I do see Van Helsing at least doing some heroic things, like being able to fully pretty much sanitize the police station completely, maybe helping some citizens get to safe houses, putting some citizens out of their misery if they're infected, doing like heroic stuff that would just make a lot more sense. Van Helsing is still a good person and is able to help innocent people when it comes down to it. So honestly, yeah, but honestly, I don't really see him staying at the Diamond Bungalows that long, because of the sheer amount of food and and maybe the sheer amount of transportation it requires as well, plus making his way back and risking not to injure any people that are in the cabins. So again, Van Helsing is pretty much going to, he's going to tear through it. Now when he gets to, let's see here, I think the city hall area, I do believe that he is going to struggle a bit. That is due to rams. Rams are more common in the city hall area, or at least the other side of that bridge, simply because there was more, I guess, prisoners at that time. It was weird, but the rams were just simply more common over there. It's also very possible that he will have to deal with butchers as well, especially if he decides to investigate definitely investigate trying to investigate the laboratory area. I could definitely see that. But I think he would just clear all the way. Like, there would be literally nothing to stop him. His world form just gives him an edge. He was able to, just tear through Dracula. Like, he was manhandling Dracula, and the only thing that kept really preventing him was pretty much the cloud covering the moon, which honestly, I feel like that should have been retconned a majority of the time. Because if we watch Underworld, they can maintain their world forms simply being at nighttime. Sometimes even during the day, which is absolutely weird. Not fair. I mean, Van Helsing's still the strong werewolf, but it's weird. Now, when he gets to the prison and then the hospital, oh my gosh, I feel like he's not gonna struggle, but he's gonna be, I'm not sure if he can get into a frenzied state here like any other werewolves I've ever read about and watched, but I do think he's going to be, it's going to be a lot of blood. It's going to be a bloodbath, especially from death row. If he plays his cards right, even as a human, he has a very good shot at taking out anyone that really comes in his path. Any, rogue guards, any prisoners. I don't see him making a deal with prisoners either. I do see him just kind of just bypassing them or pretty much taking them out. I think it would be funny if he turns to his world form and then there's just prisoners just looking up at him, just like a whole prison, just like a whole I like you, I want you kind of thing. Oh my gosh, I think it would also be worse if he didn't have control over his world state as well, just due to the sheer fact that werewolves are they can be ravenous at times. This means they can go into like a bloodlusted frenzy and begin to pretty much tear at the people around them. It rarely matters who gets caught in their path. And I could definitely see the same thing for Van Helsing. At some point it just starts getting, torn through. Eh. Now, for the boss fight, I did think Infected White would be a decent challenge before I made this. But in all honesty, Van Helsing ran through him. All you really need is a weapon with a decent amount of bleed damage. And as soon as he gets his claws on him, it's a wrap. Even if you want to say we restricted him to his human form, he's got so much experience dealing with Jekyll and Hyde that it's not even going to be much of a fight. I mean, Infected White, wasn't even better than his human version. His human version probably would have proved more of a challenge. But yeah, long story short, I do think Van Helsing clears with low difficulty. He clears this at least 99.9%. The only way I could see a 1% happening is if these zombies actually were able to corner him and he was overwhelmed. Or the gangs of the island kind of just band together just to try and eliminate him. But even then, it's very possible he lures them to the forest and just starts picking them off one by one. There's really no way to even suggest that Van Helsing losing this. He takes this entire thing with low difficulty.